We're live. All right, you guys, we're live back here with IOPPS Goes Live, episode 11. Thanks for joining this episode. You guys can join in. I'm not joining, sorry. You will be able to call in. I'm going to put my phone number in the comments. And if you want to call, ask a question, you can put it in the comments or just call in. So, welcome. So, I guess I should look here. To my left on the screen, we got Madison and Pat, father and daughter. Welcome.
Hey.
And down here, we got Mr. Simon Bird. Welcome, Simon.
Thanks.
And someone who I just met right now. Am I saying it right? Celia?
Yep.
Celia DeChambeau.
Yes.
So everyone, welcome to the show. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys are all doing well on this lockdown and what's going on in the world. And I got this is like my fifth different background on all my shows. I've been doing. I did one in Saskatoon yesterday to go get my equipment. Now I'm at the school here, but avoiding everybody, literally not being around anyone. So anyway, we're gonna get right to it. I've been seeing a lot of posts of teachers online teaching. Also, our staff here at Clifford What New School are starting to teach. Well, they've already started like a week and a half ago, and we created Facebook groups that the parents can connect their kids with. And also now, which is starting to take over, they're starting to utilize is Seesaw. So the big question is and then I know, Simon, you posted something about this and shared a post. Is COVID-19 going to be changing the way the future of education is taught?
Do you want me to go ahead and start it off?
Yes, sir. Go hard.
I definitely think so. It already has, and I think it's been there for a long time. It's what we call a paradigm shift, right? It's getting everybody to realize that things have to be operating differently. And I know all our, there's a, we got young teachers. We got young teachers that have already, that are teaching us. I'm not old, but at the same time, anybody that is just coming out of university knows about the technology a lot more. And my colleagues here that work with the province of Saskatchewan and Middle Lake Tribal Council will probably tell you as well that a lot more of our teachers have stepped up to use a lot more of the software that's available out there. I know I'm learning a lot more about the educational platforms that are available, things that I've only heard about, but now I have to learn it. I have to.
Yeah. And Pat?
Sorry, I'm just baby just got up, so I'm just gonna relocate here.
All right, we'll go to you.
Yep.
Like what Simon had said, that there is a huge shift happening right now in our educational system. It's a really trying time for many teachers because a lot of our teachers are like an older generation, like myself. I'm like in my 40s, but even with that, there's still learning curves that are happening with me. Like I've taken on myself to learn about all these different types of platforms that you could use to transfer the education. I have 4 little ones at home. I shouldn't say little ones, are between the ages of 9 to 15 that are actually taking part in this online education that's going to be happening after Easter. So as a parent and as a teacher, I've been fortunate that I have those skills that I could support them with whatever programming that's going to be happening now. Yeah. But we do have parents that have no clue as to what these kids are going to be doing. We also have teachers that don't have the technological background to be able to support some of these programming. So there is a change. I believe that it was a change that needed to happen. And I think that all of us, like as educators, need to support one another and try to provide those opportunities for learning for all our teachers.
I guess I'm going to back this up. I guess I should have introduced what you guys do. So we'll start with Pat there. Pat, or going this way. Pat, do you want to tell who you are and what you do?
Thanks for having me, Nathan. I guess I work with Treaty 6 Education Council. work as their director of education. And what we do is we provide services to all the communities we partner with. I guess we have 11, 12 in total now that we provide education services. So literacy supports, numeracy supports, anything around governance or board policy stuff. Really, just almost anything in education that can be thought of, I guess, right? So that's my role.
Simon?
I work as the director of education for Lac La Ronge Indian Band. In Lac La Ronge, we have 4 schools, and they do vary in terms of where they are in this, what we call a digital divide. Some of our students, we live in a place that has a lot of internet, and some of our students live in a place where there is no internet at all. So I got a full range of options that we have to look for in order to stay connected with our students. And other than that, we also support Stanley Mission that has 2 schools and Grandmother's Bay as second level service providers. And so that's what I do. And we have all together within all the schools that we talked about are about average approximately about 1,700 students.
Wow. And Celia?
Hi, I'm one of the superintendents for Meadow Lake Tribal Council. We provide second level services to 9 First Nations, 5 Cree, 4 Dene. And so, with the change that's been happening, it's like a huge learning curve for all of us. We've had meeting after meeting after meeting. All our meetings, of course, are online. So we've been looking at different platforms. Like we've done the Zoom, we've done Hangouts, we've done all these different things. We're working with WebEx right now to provide that learning because it's probably one of the safest platforms to teach from, I guess, or to have online meetings with. But with what Simon and Pat had been talking about, like it's a really huge learning curve for everybody, especially with the ones that don't have access to online education, like the internet. They don't have access to devices and things like that. So we're trying to find ways to be able to reach all of our kids and not just, the ones that have access.
Yeah, the big thing with all the communities, whether you're northern, southern, is internet access, number 1. And number 2, getting a device to them. So what we recently did here, and I hope every school can do it, is we're in the process of, Pat, you already know us, I think that we're in the process of purchasing Chromebooks and getting them all, programmed for each kid at their home. The other big question is internet. That's the big one. So, and I don't know how we're gonna. What's the solution on that? The internet, the connection. We could get devices, and realistic, we could get devices for all the youth. But what good is it if they have no internet connection?
I can take a stab at that there, Nathan. You even have to take a little bit more of a step back than simply having the internet. We live in right now we live on social media, especially Aboriginal people. Aboriginal youth are one of the highest users of social media. So there's this whole idea of digital citizenship, we call it, right? Just because we have the internet doesn't mean that you can take online learning, and then we all have to learn how to I guess respect one another, be careful about what we post, to be very clear. And honestly, lesson learned for me is to make sure that it's going to have to be very clear, and try to be positive. I think that's probably one of the main things that you can tell young people today. The internet that we're using now is much different from the internet we had 3 weeks ago. And then now keeping that in mind, you also need to take into account if there is internet connectivity at the home. Are there any other issues preventing students from actually participating in a classroom? We're finding out the first number 1 thing we did in our schools is we sent out a survey And the survey, we all agreed what to ask, so it will give us some more information as to what our students have and don't have at home. And our teachers, all of our teachers, got to phone all of the homes. Do you have internet, cell phone, laptop? How many kids in the house? How many people in the house? These are all going to be factors, because if you have 8 or 9 people in the house, a lot of the students or a lot of those kids might be going to school at the same time. And not every one of them are going to have a laptop. And some of them that do are going to be using the same bandwidth. So it's going to slow everything down that we have. So how do we go ahead and start to have quality education when things around you are very real factors? Our colleague Pat, for example, had to move his phone because the baby was waking up, and now he's at his home office. That is very, very practical issue that we have to deal with at home. And so I imagine a lot of our high school students are going to face those same issues, and I think that's where we need to really design our education system to be as practical as possible without having to add to the stress that's already there, but to try and build up as to what we can do. Maybe push a little bit, but don't push enough. Don't push too much where you're going to push away the students, even if they have internet, just to try and help them out that way. So that's one of the things that we have done, and we're continuing to do, just to have a positive connection at home and to slowly roll out the academic piece.
What about teaching through TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram? Well, I'd say Facebook, but most of these kids are, they don't care about Facebook. But TikTok, for example, is the big one right now. You have, I don't know if you guys seen, he's got all these videos going around of, all these indigenous people either changing into, their regalia or makeup or whatever. Could we use TikTok to teach the kids? Is it possible? And if so, what kind of teaching would you like to see through that?
If I can pop in here, I'll try to address a few of the questions that we've already asked. I guess I believe that we have to. We're all taught, I guess, in a system that has really been traditionally in the four walls of a school, right? And we've seen a little bit of a shift now into this land-based learning and that kind of stuff, right? That really has shifted kind of how we do things. It's starting to shift. I don't think we're there yet. I think we got a long ways to go in that. But this pandemic and this crisis has really forced us as educators to think about the way we do things. And I think that I look at the tools that are all out there, and this is the thing that we get so wrapped up in, I'll say, is that we see programs or tools or software as kind of the answer, right, as the silver bullet, and I don't believe that. I think everything that we do, TikTok is a tool, Pearson Math is a tool, land-based learning is a tool for us to be able to build and help students become who they need to be in order to find success, whatever that success looks like for them moving forward, right? And I just want to talk about that whole piece for internet and the access. That's one piece of it, right?
Yeah.
The internet, the tech piece is another one, and then the third piece is the capacity, right? Like how many people know how to run a network in their home, right? Like so we were putting these access, or not these access points, but this tech into to communities, and we're saying, well, you just have to hook up to your hotspot, or you just connect it to your router. Some people don't have a router, right? So those are the kinds of things. And I see a couple of our couple people who have made comments on Facebook. Jenna just joined us, and Robert works in an urban First Nations, well, it's an urban setting, I guess, in a school that has I'd say almost 100% First Nations kids. So these kids are sitting in our schools who, they're living in these urban centers, and they're still having those struggles around internet access, the tech in the home, the capacity at home to be able to do the things they need to do, and have a place where they've got a quiet space where they can work, right? So we're up against, and I don't mean it's not all doom and gloom, right? I believe, we are able, we have the ability, we have the capacity, I'll say as a collective group of educators to come together and say, these are some of the things that we're doing to try to combat some of those things, and really feeding off each other on some of those really great ideas that are happening across the province, across the nation, across the world even, right?
Yeah.
So, I think there's lots of opportunity. I believe I see the silver lining in this crisis, right? Because it's forcing our teachers to step out of comfort zones and have to learn some of the things that they've been avoiding, I'll say, for a number of years, right? So, anyways, I'll stop there.
No, that was good. And Celia.
Yeah, just from, I guess, kind of piggybacking off what Pat has been saying, is that, like with myself, in particular, I have 4 kids that are going to be doing that online ed. One of them, however, when they did the, the audit of their parents and the access they had, and this is in an urban setting, where they realized that more than half of the kids don't have access to either internet or a device, that they decided to do a homework package system. So it depends on, I guess, the areas and the kids and the parents and what type of access that they have. Now, going with the, like TikTok and stuff, there's a purpose for each one of those that we could actually tap into. We know that the kids are interested in that form of, social media, that we could really take those and try to figure out how to teach through them. But like Pat had said, it's a tool, right? There's many, many tools, and some tools won't work for some teachers, but some will. So I think one of the things I kept saying all along, like, especially with our education system, is that we need to train all teachers. It's not just, the ones that want to learn about it. It's everybody right off the bat, because with what's happening right now, they say this is our first wave of it, and there'll be a couple more waves of it. So what happens then? We need to be prepared and make sure that, we have all these different tools ready for teachers, especially the ones that are not computer literate, or the ones that don't have that, the skill to teach off of it, or to use all those tools that we're bringing in. Our program innovation consultant is just struggling right now because she has all of those different skill sets that she's trying to teach everybody right now, when we could have actually been learning all along. So that's one of the biggest, I think, from the wake up points that I had, was seeing her stress level, because she was the one that had all of this background and knowledge.
Yeah.
We need to teach her teachers all of that stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like you said, we're heading into the first wave, and then you hear all kinds of things, and watching the news yesterday, they're saying, like you're saying, this first wave, what they're saying, could be ending end of August. So I'm just jumping ahead here. What if, and these are all what ifs, obviously, what if school doesn't resume, let's say January? What's going to happen from September? And obviously these are all just, shot in the dark, what happens, right? Are you guys preparing for that, if it is possible that might happen? And if so, like what is the plan? Does anyone want to take that one on, or is that way too soon?
I'll take it on, and again, we're in the same boat, I think, as like everybody, right? Everybody's learning a new way of doing things. So as we try different things, and as we look towards the future, we can plan. We're going to make mistakes, right? But that's what learning is, right? You make mistakes and you learn from them, and you change the way you're doing things. So we've already got a lot of our teachers right now have been overwhelmed, and I've got 3 teachers in my house right now, right? So I've got 2 teachers, one that's teaching in a kindergarten classroom, one that's teaching grade 10, and they're coming up against they're having struggles, because there are kind of certain limitations that we have within the system that we currently have, right? So I've got I've got a teacher who in my house right here, who has got parents who are overwhelmed, and they're stressed out. So that stress, they're projecting onto her, right?
Yeah.
So my wife and my daughter are both teachers, so teaching grade 10, there's teaching grade 8, grade 10, and there's this overwhelming, this real high stress situation that a parent is feeling. So now that's being projected onto the teacher, and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I meet this need and meet this demand from this single parent? But again, taking it and saying, well, if that's a stress and a frustration that a parent has in this situation, I've got 27 other kids that there's going to be another parent in there, or that we have to worry about. So, I think about as educators, we don't know what's going to come on. We have to what is it? The term is plan for the worst, hope for the best, right? So we could be in this, into next school year. And so we have to start thinking about that. I think part of what our struggle right now is we're just trying to figure out what the next 2 or 3 months looks like, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, those conversations are already starting in a lot of First Nations communities, a lot of leadership tables around Saskatchewan and and nationwide and against province wide, right? And so internationally, right? So it is something we're thinking about, but we're still trying to support that these next couple months, right?
Yeah. Yeah, especially with us, because we have we have like I guess an older staff, but a lot of them are in tune with what's going on with the internet, or I should say Facebook and stuff, and utilizing that as a skill, right, to teach these kids. And it's yeah, you're right. It's like trial and error. Nothing's wrong, nothing's right. It's kind of just you kind of peek around the internet and see what everyone else is up to, and a lot of people are using a Zoom.
Yeah.
Even though there's a big scare right now that people can kind of plop in there right now, and I don't know what they're calling Zoom before. I don't know.
Zoom bombing, yeah.
Zoom bombing, yeah.
Really, Nathan, it's about, when you look at those kinds of things, it's all about how it's about us being cognizant of those things, right?
Yeah.
Inside of Zoom, there are things that you can do when you set up a meeting that will protect, right? That you put a password to it, you create a waiting room so the moderator has to let those people in. Like there's that kind of stuff, right? That we, again, it's just a matter of learning the ins and outs of each of those platforms in order to be able to use it effectively and minimize that risk, right?
No, that's true. I guess, yeah. Just like systems like this, it's like safe because it's on its own little room. Yeah. Simon, are we having a technical difficulty there? Or? Simon, he must be muted.
Maybe.
But Celia, what are you guys doing specifically over there? Is there anything you would like to share with us that you guys are doing to teach online that that might help the schools?
One of the things that we've been teaching a lot of our schools to do is the Google Classroom, which has a lot of those types of, I guess, tools that you can use to support student learning.
Yeah.
We've also used Seesaw as another one.
Yeah. And Seesaw will bring up
like,
right now.
Yeah. And then the province are using Microsoft Teams, right? So like even with myself, like I have to learn about Microsoft Teams because that's what my own kids will be using. Yeah. But classroom recording, because we've been doing it all along, right? We've been doing a little bit of training for the last couple of years on that platform. So a lot of our teachers do know it. But even that, like if you actually go full blown into it, you get lost right away, right? So it's for them.
And that's like, for Google Classrooms, or?
Yeah, Google Classrooms for the teachers, for the students to be able to access, material from that site. So we've been doing a lot of that. We've done Zoom, we've done Google Hangouts, we've done WebEx as part of our platform for meetings and stuff like that. So we've looked at different, I guess from the director's table, all the things that they've been sharing, we've kind of been looking at those as well. So a big thank you for the directors, how trying to be a step ahead of what's happening right now. So with all of those different initiatives that they're doing, we've kind of looked at them and started pulling those in and supporting the teachers through that. So it would be, I know Lac La Ronge had their their survey that they did, we looked at that as well, and trying to, incorporate as much, because of the help from all of the other directors has really spearheaded a lot of the stuff that we're doing as well. So Google Classroom is our main platform that we're using.
Just a comment here from Cody Bugler. I work in the post-secondary sector. My worry is students won't have access capacity to improve their marks for fall admission, or no laptop and won't be able to take their last class due to graduate, etc. I wonder if laptops should be provided to facilitate grade 12 graduation, potentially using post-sec dollars. Thoughts? Simon, are you back with us?
Yeah, I've been back for a while. I did have a phone call there, and it kind of bounced
okay.
me off. I've been listening in the dark, but we are purchasing Chromebooks for grade 12 students. The unfortunate thing is, I think most of the folks around this discussion right now deal with K to 12, and we it will depend on each individual First Nation in terms of the availability of their dollars. We did have last year, we were able to give out scholarships to every single student that applied, and each student got quite a bit, and it was enough to buy a couple laptops, actually, high quality laptops. And of course that will depend, Corey will definitely have to work with post-secondary, and it'll the unfortunate thing is the way we're funded is we basically get a set amount of dollars, and what we do with those dollars really depends on the priority of the committee. And if it's the chief and council that are part of that committee, so they get to put their input. And for the most part, I know the discussions that I've been a part of really takes a look at who do we want to fund, and because we have to fund as many students as possible. And so we have them coded in categories, and the top of the category is, of course, continuing students and also new students. And then we have those that are taking their masters that are a little bit lower on the category, and those that are taking their PhDs, right? And you want to take it at that approach. You can provide Chromebooks and laptops for every single one of your students, but in the end, you're going to be cutting back on the number of students that you're going to be funding from post-secondary. So I hope that helps. From what I can see, there is some discretion to purchase some of these learning supplies, and it all depends on the policy that you've been able to develop yourself in each of one of our First Nations. And for the K-12 system, just going back to WebEx, Zoom, Google Hangouts, one of the things that we're using is Office, Microsoft Office 360 and Teams. So far, our teachers are basically coming at this from a brand new, in terms of they've never dealt with anything, or they're familiar with Google Classrooms. And so it's very, very similar. And the number one thing we have to do is make sure that each and every one of our students does have email. And so it's the ability to connect. And again, I think what I keep telling our staff members is, it's better to take things a little bit on the slower side than overwhelm and turn off our students. I basically use this approach in classrooms that I've done myself. Yeah, Microsoft Teams is what we're doing, and it seems to work. Giving a little bit of that extra time. Now, we're coming at it from the approach of distance learning. All right, we try to have all the lessons in two streams, either in physical material or something that you can do over Wi-Fi and not have the Cadillac version of internet connection, because you want to have the students all have the same opportunity, so that that really is the challenge. So we've given our staff members some more leniency as to how they're going to develop their classes. And one of the other things I'll mention is IXL. Very close to curricular outcomes that we have during the within the provincial curriculum, something that we do have to meet. And I think we're doing good for any educator out there, any director, superintendent, teacher, that's basically looked into this and have started to develop any kind of a plan. You're ahead of the game. There are First Nations out there, specifically First Nations that I do know of, that have still basically followed the recommendations of the Ministry of Education. They've passed all their students, and they basically sent out all the report cards.
Mhm.
And if some of the students got over 50% as of March 13, I believe it is, then that's the mark that they can have in high school going into the fall. We purposefully didn't think that was the way to go. So maintaining that connection to the students and giving every single student an opportunity to improve their marks, but also trying to slow down exactly what we're asking. We know what we want, but it's how we can make sure that we get that and make sure it's consistent. It's going to be very unfair if we just divide our students right in half and have some really awesome lessons, and then the rest of them that just don't have any kind of internet at home. So we're looking at Chromebooks for all our students, especially high school, and looking into what we call Neducation. Neducation is something that my colleagues are familiar with. It's been around for 2 years. At Saskatoon, being the place of this company, places a cell phone in the hands of our students, $35 a month. It's I'm kind of putting in a plug, but at the same time, it's something that I seen when I was first introduced to it as something that is the way of the future. And here we are. Lots of people are knocking at the door saying, how can I get at least a cell phone in the hands of our students so they can connect or use it as a hotspot for Chromebooks?
Yeah. Thank you, Simon. Yeah, yeah, that was a lot of information to take that one.
Nathan, can I just go back? Cody asked that question. There is the concern that I've got is that, just like what Cody's saying, that access piece is we've got some students.
I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry,
Yep.
Simon.
Yeah,
I think you might have to take off your earphones there. I think we're getting the scrap. Oh, they're out. Where'd that scrap was coming from?
So it sounds like somebody's chewing.
Yeah.
There. No, that's better. No.
Come on, class. Let's get together here. Okay, go ahead, Pat.
No, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay. So the concern that I've got is that, grade 12s right now who are in this, they get 50%, they're passing, that they don't have the access because I think right now the students who are finding success and able to improve their marks for the most part are students who have the tech at home, have the access, and have the supports at home. Right? They've got parents who are encouraging and bringing them along on that piece. So I think there's that piece that's there. The challenge that we've got is for people who work at post-secondary institutions to find a way to change how they're doing things, right? We're asking education K-12 to change everything, like think about it differently. And then if post-secondary doesn't think differently, then the systems, I don't think they don't line up that well, I would say. There's still lots of work to do in that K-12 piece, but can transition to post-secondary, but it would even be a further transition or a harder transition, because if admissions people are saying, well, this student only got a 50%. That means that they didn't take the opportunity. Well, for me, it's not opportunity. It's not choice. It's not having the ability or capacity or the means, I guess, to take that opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are those kids with 50% in grade 12 going in and having their admissions people look at that piece, and then they've got a student who's got 65 or 70 or 80%, and they've improved their mark. Well, it's an inequality or inequity type thing,
Yeah.
right? So that's part of the issue. So I've been challenging, the people at, within the advanced education as well as education K to 12 to say how is this going to impact those grade 10 to 12s? And this isn't just a 1 year problem; it's a 3 year problem at least, right? Those grade 10s with those 50%, and got a teacher here who says, how, I've got 12 kids out of 27 who are wanting to do the work and wanting to improve their mark. The other 15 or 20 or 15, I think it is, are saying 50 is fine, right? So there's that piece as well, right? Like, how do we haven't done a very good job, I think, in education of showing, and I would say, as even as parents, right, community members, we haven't done a very good job of helping students to build that intrinsic motivation to get better, to continually improve, right? So there's those things that we have to battle against and have to overcome, and have our students really understand the impact that it's going to have. So that's a really good question, and and it's not just because he's my nephew, but it's a good question. It's a really, a lot of things that we have to think about when we're thinking about this. It's not just just the grade 12s you have to worry about. It's even, and I think about K to 9. Those kids are going to come back, with 4 months of loss. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I'll stop there.
No,
Thanks.
that's all right. Have your divisions been given tutorials for teachers for the different platforms? Like, for instance, we're using Google Meets.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Like, has everyone been? I think we did touch up on this, but I think Zoom might be the big one. Or what do you guys? Or Microsoft Work? Sorry.
It's really depends upon what your division agrees.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these do come with a price tag,
Yeah.
and basically you have to make that decision fairly early on. To explore different platforms would be basically changing up the game, and then having too many people recommend a couple. Too many platforms can be confusing.
Yeah.
As you know, these are confusing times as it is. I really do acknowledge that question. And what we have been able to do is very earlier on, we had to decide, is it going to be Google Meets, Google Classroom, or Microsoft Teams? And because we were already on Microsoft Teams system, and after we've triple checked it, 10 times over, we had to make sure we decide and just go with that one. And so far it's working out well. I've been hearing some positive comments, and I definitely would recommend Google Classroom. And the earlier question that our colleague there asked about was, what platform would you recommend to teach the language? I think the tool in order to teach the language is going to be the same as anything else. It maybe sometimes it's Zoom, if the kids are ready. But I'm seeing a lot of really good success with Facebook. There's our colleague there from Fishing Lake that is hosting a social distancing powwow.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that our staff are looking into, as well as having a social distancing language festival. It's
Mm-hmm.
really trying to have a little bit of a compromise to meet the students where they are. I mean, we can do the day-to-day stuff using Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom, but in order to involve to put a little bit more enthusiasm in there, it's really to try and use what the kids are comfortable
Doing,
with.
yeah.
And that can include TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, whatever that is.
I think right now it just depends what age group the kids are at, because wow, it's hard to see any 20 and under kids on Facebook right now. It's it's usually like 25 and up, I guess. But yeah, my personally, like, we just signed up as a school. We signed up as on TikTok, and I'm really into social media, really into it. But TikTok, I just can't get it. It's like one of them platforms that I when Snapchat came out, I signed up to it in 2011 right away. But I literally had to watch YouTube in 2013, I think, to see how to use it again. And I'm gonna have to do that with TikTok. But I think TikTok right now is a massive platform. Like, even the kindergarten kids, and everyone's on it. Like, they're watching, and you even hear now everyone on Facebook. They're demanding that they don't sign into TikTok and sign up for it because they don't want to scroll for hours on hours that people are on. When you're laying in bed and that's all you're doing. Like, oh, I seen one post actually the other day. This lady said she spent 5 hours on TikTok alone. So, I mean, that's just kind of the world we're in right now. But I think just hearing that is you see all these challenges that these kids are doing, and then that goes back to that, sequence questions, like the platform. I think I'd like to not to pressure to see more teaching on TikTok, because I think that's probably the best way we can hit that younger generation. When you get older, I think that's into the other, I don't know, that's where that, I guess, Facebook would come on. Welcome back, Celia.
Thanks.
If I can there, Nathan,
I just had a call, and then it
I'm gonna sound like a really
just stopped
old
working. I
man
couldn't
here.
hear a thing, so I had
It's
to
a
go
slippery
off and come
slope.
back on. Sorry.
If you try too much to be an entertainer, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna quickly run out of ideas, and you're gonna put a lot of stress on teachers to be, to have to be something that teachers are not built for.
Yeah.
And the most very, very successful education system is to utilize something that works as consistently as possible. TikTok is a good way to, it's a hook. That's all that is. Facebook, that's a hook. But the meat and bones has to come from the weekly assignments. I'm a big believer that maybe utilize TikTok once in a while, Netflix once in a while, physical DVDs once in a while, music once in a while. But because not you have to approach it as what everybody's going to have, and try not to push out the students that don't have some of these things. Even going on Facebook Live and seeing yourself on video, it's very difficult for a lot of people. But I've noticed that a lot more people are doing it. But I hope that makes sense. It's good, but in small amounts, I would say.
So there's that question again. Will the coronavirus teach how education is taught? And I hope somebody out there, and I agree with you totally 100%, Simon, that there's certain ways you can take each platform. But what if there's a visionary out there that switches it up and says, I'm going to teach the curriculum strictly through TikTok, Snapchat, whatever, teaching math, because then you're engaging the kids 100%, right, through online? Or am I reaching too far here? Go ahead.
One quick thing, and then I'll take it over to Pat. I'm gonna throw this pen over to Pat.
You got a guy will reach out.
But in Wollaston, Hatchet Lake had this teacher that was 2 years ago. Was this teacher was teaching on Minecraft. You know, I thought that was just the best thing you could do. And this teacher, kids were socializing that they would not normally socialize inside the classroom. And, you know, you can definitely do a lot, but those are just pieces of the tool. The whole overall strategy cannot entirely depend on one niche social media platform, but the platforms that we are talking about do incorporate Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams. They have all these things so everybody can kind of do have the same basic tools and have the same focus. There you go, there, Pat. I'm gonna throw it up.
Thanks, Simon. I like, for me, I guess, you know, before Simon said it, that's what I was thinking was that these are, again, they're all just tools, right? TikTok has certain limitations, Snapchat has certain limitations. So how do we use those tools to best benefit the students, right? And that's what really it's about is serving the needs and serving our students. So and that's you know, we were taught in a system as educators that we don't, you know, we serve curriculum, we serve the school, we serve, you know what I mean, we don't serve students, right? And that's the total, I think it's a total way different wrong way to look at it. The people we serve are our students. So how do we connect, how do we engage? You know, you can utilize all these kinds of things, but like Simon said, if you're not, you know, if you're not if that's the all of the content and that's the only way, then we're still just serving ourselves, right? If I'm going to use 100% TikTok and I don't take into consideration those kids that maybe don't have TikTok, or the kids that don't have the internet or have access, then I'm still just serving me and as myself as a teacher and an educator. I'm thinking about what I want to teach before the student, right? So, anyways, I just that's where I'll stay. You know, I think for us at Treaty 6, we're trying to support we have 12 different communities, and each one is like we try to have conversations with each of them to say how can we meet the students' needs, and some have come up with different things, and all we try to do is support that, right? So we've done some stuff around Google Meet and Google Hangouts, Google Classrooms. We've done some stuff on Zoom. We've done some stuff on Microsoft Teams. We've done some stuff on sites like Mathletics or IXL or whatever it is, right? And just whatever each community looks as the best way to, or promising ways, I guess, to engage their students, right? So it's just like, again, it's really just shifting our whole mindsets on how we do things.
Celia, what's your thoughts? Basically, I guess
going like a lot of the platforms that we're using, the teams in the classrooms, will cover a lot of those things that you're asking about. Like, so with TikTok and Snapchat, you could use those as part of like the collecting of data from the kids, like for the assignment piece, right? So it has its limitations. Like there's only I don't know how many seconds it records at a time, right? So like it has those
30 or 15 or 60, I think.
Yeah. But with that being said, the kids, you could use it as a part of an assignment, as a possibility, right? Like, so giving them the choice to, you know, their end product could be under that. So all those types of stuff. So even with that, like it's trying to figure out what meets the needs of the teachers. So if they're using Teams, then really training the teachers in all the aspects of Teams, because there's so many different components. If we're using Google Classroom, training all the teachers to use that platform to the best of its abilities. So again, I'm not against using TikTok and using Snapchat as part of, you know, showing students learning. So it would be a good way for some of them that are really strong in that area. But like Pat had said, some of them don't have those things to look into. So you'd have to find an alternative for them as well.
Do you guys think that
if I can add to what Celia was saying, the reason why I was doing this is what those TikTok and social media, even on Facebook, all they are hooks, very severely limited. If we try to compact our lessons to those 30-second, even 5-second meme capacity, we're really taking away any kind of depth that I know our students can do. I think it's a way to maybe, you know, if we have an example could be I seen this really good lesson there, and by the way, I'm agreeing with you, Celia, but the TikTok has to be just a way to engage students. In order to be competitive in any job market, you don't want a student to basically join a workforce for 1 or 2 days, and then if they get bored, they move on. We have to build depth in terms of what the students can be able to do at a university or any kind of labor market out there. Essentially, that's what we're here to do. Is we're just here to introduce a whole lot of different experiences and have our students walk away with some deep skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there in that aspect. I would only see it as a use for students, I guess recording their learning.
Do you think just because of what's going on today in today's world that universities around the world are going to start pushing for online teaching, like digging into social medias? They're going to bring in. Do you think that's going to be a bigger aspect now, a bigger focus?
Are you eating chips?
I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from. Did you guys hear what I was saying? No, the question.
Yeah. I guess I'll take the first stab at it. I believe they've already started that, right? Again, we've seen them more and more universities utilize online and distance learning as a way to engage more students, right? But it really is it's very much I think it's an innovation that's probably been 10 years now, right?
Yeah.
So now again, we've got the K-12 students are a little bit of a different clientele. That I hate that word, but they're different people, right? And they have that. How do we again use the tools we have to make sure that we can engage? We make the learning so that it's interesting. Give them, I guess more of the power, right? And I'll go back to that whole system piece. Again, the teacher was always at the front. They always knew everything, and you didn't question what they said. Well, in this new way of things, I think it's forcing us to give a little bit more of the reins over to the student and give them that voice in what they're learning and how they're learning it, and even the interest that they've got. Right. That's why we see less than half of the kids in a grade 10 class saying 50% is me. I don't want to do this piece. Right. So.
Interesting. Education has changed from the way it used to be. Right now, we have to start asking ourselves, what else is possible here? The curriculum will have what is CEL?
Common essential learnings. That's an old term, but yeah, I agree. I know what you're saying.
We're going to cater to what the students want to learn. Wow, the UBDs, no idea what that is, will change as well. Exciting times. Explain that.
UBDs is a way of planning units, right? Understanding by design. So it's kind of like working backwards, right? What do you want the kids to know, and then create your unit, your lessons that lead up to that, right? And they kind of like in small steps, right? So, but again, Sequin, I know, like, this is the struggle we're having right now in education, is that we're still stuck in this system that has been the same really for over 100, for 7 generations, right? And it's really just there, and it's really served that post-secondary piece, right? How many of our kids go to not post-secondary, to university, right? How many of our kids go to university? 10, 15%, whatever. I don't know what the number is, but the other 85%, I think our education system doesn't do a good job of preparing them for life after, right? So that's the struggle. Part of our struggle too is, again, we were trained in a system that serves universities, and I see post-secondary admissions is going to change. I honestly believe that universities are becoming I'll say one of the more unpopular choices for our kids, right? Everybody used to always want that. I need to go to university. Well, you know what? I think that's less and less happening now. It's more, I want to get into trades. I want to, and this is, again, our system hasn't trained our kids to think like an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're 100% right there. Exactly, man. It's like we're brought up in a system that's bred that you need to go be a tradesman, or well, actually they push university first and then it's trades after. And you're 100% right. It's like there's no thought process of, okay, maybe you're not going to be a tradesman. Maybe you're not going to be someone that needs to go to university. Maybe you're like somebody that needs to just go off on your own, you know, and create a business because you're, you know, you're really creative like that, right? And you're 100% right. The system needs to, I think this is a big shock to the whole world, to literally the whole world, and how we are doing everything. But education is a big one, taking a big hit right now, because like you guys, you're all on the same system, you're all in the same spot of adapting every single day, because, you know, they keep telling you, well, this is going to go longer than we think. And, you know, it's like, how do we all adapt to that now, and where are we at, and where are we going to go with this? So I'm just trying to read what it's sequencing in there.
Celia has been pretty quiet, and I want to give her a chance to talk.
Yeah. Go ahead. Can you hear us, Celia?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Just thinking about the 10 to 12, I know there's a lot of struggles, a lot of things. One of the things that we're doing is looking at the hybrid courses out of Greater Catholic School, the online school program that they have there. And it's trying to get, I guess, as much as we can for our high school students, because, you know, like a lot of them are giving them the pass, but then you get into university, what are the skills that we need them to know when they get in there, right? So we're trying to do as much of that part of it as possible. But again, it's trying to find ways to support them through technology as well, because some of them don't have access, right? We found that out from, you know, a similar survey that Lac La Ranche had done. So it's trying to do that for them as well. Like each of our schools have, they call it a slush fund, where they have money to purchase tech, but it's not enough, right? We know that it was never enough. So what do we do from here? How do we support those, especially the high school students? Because it's going to be difficult for them if we just leave them the way they are right now. So
one thing I do want to point out, and I don't know if any of you guys follow Elon Musk. Does anyone follow Elon Musk? Oh yeah, a little bit. Okay, so you guys obviously know what's going on in the sky there. Elon Musk blasting all those satellites, right? At low altitude, and we're going to see the satellites literally zoom by. So what he's doing, and I follow him big time because I just love how his thought process is, and, like, you know, how he's visionary and trying to change stuff. Let's look here. You all. And anyway, the way he thinks, and anyway, going on to his internet satellite, literally that internet is going to be for the whole world, but it's going to benefit the northern communities. It's going to benefit all, actually, First Nations, because you can get that internet anywhere. Literally, you just need, it's literally plug in. He said, I think that thing is like this big as a pizza box, he said, and it's plug and play, and you get internet, you know, obviously with a subscription. So I think they're going to be starting to do it this by summer or something like that. But where I'm going with this is that's going to really push forward online learning again, where, you know, you'll say, let's go real far north, like Black Lake or anything, you know. And I was talking to an educator last night, and I said, you know, and I brought up that Elon Musk internet. I was like, well, look at this. This is going to change everything. Like, you can get internet anywhere. I think the only place you won't be able to get it is Antarctica or something crazy. But you can get it anywhere, in the bush, anywhere, as long as you can plug in somewhere and you have a subscription. I was like, that's going to change the whole world, where no one's going to have to come down south to go to school or anything, you know. And that's where that online learning, again, is like where we at now. Even, I guess, in schools, like, might change. I said, look, you could sit there and teach 15 kids in front of you, but 1,000 more are watching you, right? What are you guys' thoughts on that? I'm just going to unmute all you here for a sec. Anybody want to take that one on? Did you guys even hear what I said?
Yes. I heard what you said. You're talking about
distance learning, I guess, where Well, the big thing is right now is classroom sizes, right? Is because I remember like Ontario was on strike because of the classroom sizes. So with this again, and this is where I want to really put that online learning. With that, some parents are going to stay home, that can stay home and have their kids taught. Say Pat's teaching them online, right?
If I can just, first of all, I have to get going in about a couple minutes here. Second of all, it's home is defined very differently in a lot of places. One of the reasons why I had to lose connection here is because I had a phone call because there was kids that broke into one of our educational buildings last night. And I also made a recent post about just how much alcohol is still being sold. Bootleggers are doubling the prices of everything in a lot of our First Nations communities. That to me is comparable to just having a basically unlimited access to everything without having to have the basics at home to sustain learning. I think is going to not be the silver bullet to really bring about all the answers that you need to have kids learn online. I did talk to some friends in Manitoba who do online learning, and throughout the years that they've been doing this, I think they've been doing it for about for more than 5 years, I want to say. They've noticed that when they basically have online learning opportunities for their students that they can do by themselves versus online to basically a schedule. The students show up and join class maybe at 9 o'clock to um, 12 o'clock, or maybe for an hour and a half, or whatever the case might be. As long as it's a routine and schedule, they're finding more and success when students have a way to be held accountable for the time that they put in. I myself, over 10 years ago, had a student um, on a system. It was a struggle for the student. It was a bright kid, but individual learning was a struggle for him. And so if you have this kind of a setup where you can listen, you can interact, and you show up at a specific time and your instructor's there, and you read through, or you have some of the materials, if as long as that is the bulk of the online learning, and there's no distractions around any one of us right now, that's a privilege for a lot of people that don't have a quiet room, uninterrupted Wi-Fi, and then some of us having to on the side here deal with some serious issues every day because I just kind of see a little too much. I don't think education is going to be ever totally replaced. I think it's up to us to take an opportunity today to make some stronger improvements. I think that's the way to put it. I don't think we'll ever replace schools for a lot of our kids. I think it's a really good option for a lot that don't like to be around school. They get bullied. There's no room for them. There's overcrowding. Transportation's an issue. So if they can be going to school online, I think that's the best thing you can do for that child. And if they need the school there in terms of physical this and physical that, or maybe a phone call this, or mental health support, it's a good mixture.
Awesome thing, Simon. Yeah, I'm gonna close this out. You guys have been going for just over an hour, and I'd like to get you guys' closing remarks here. Cecilia?
Sure. Going on with what Simon was talking about, that we have issues in our homes, right? We're all aware of that. That sometimes like the school system is a place where these kids escape from that. So we need to have a combination of both, like a place where the kids can come and then they have that, you know, that learning that they feel that they're able to do. And then we have some, of course, that are being bullied at school, that the learning isn't happening because they're afraid to be there. So there's two different formats of learning. We also need to prepare our teachers to do this type of online learning. I know Simon had talked about that and passionate about that, you know, that next generation of learning, especially for our teachers to be able to deliver that online education, have the tools to be able to do it effectively. We need to do that. So the training needs to happen for all our teachers straight across whatever platform we're using. They need to be trained fully in those, because again, you know, if there's not going to be a regular classroom system, we have to prepare our teachers to be able to deliver whatever means to deliver that education program.
Awesome. Thank you. And Pat. Oh, do I got to mute him? There you go.
Uncle Pat.
And Pat.
Yeah. Like I said before, I believe that we're at a really opportune time in education, because it's forcing us to think differently on how or what we do or how we're doing it. And this pandemic, this crisis has really exposed a lot of those gaps, those barriers, I'll call them, for students that are underserved inside the system, right? So, you know, again, we talk about internet access, we talk about supports at home, we talk about whatever it is. We're really seeing this exposition, I guess, or if that's the word, of those gaps, right? So when we think about, you know, how we do things in the future, you know, we've talked about, you know, so we haven't talked about like the graduation rates and that kind of stuff. We've kind of seen this slow increase of First Nations graduation, Métis graduation rates. We've seen it slowly increase over time, about 7% or 10% in the last, you know, not even 10. That's about 8%, I think, in the last since 2008, 2009. So like 43% of our kids are graduating on time, and then it jumps up to about half, about 50%, maybe 55% after 5 years. If you take the First Nation sector out of the population, the Métis sector out of the population, non-First Nations kids, 85% graduating, right? So we know that there's gaps, but now this is helping us to see what's creating some of those gaps, right? And I think if we don't address those barriers and address the reasons why those gaps or those barriers are there, we're not going to get to where we need to be. And our goal should be 100%. Every one of our kids should be finding success in the system, right? That's what our goal should be. If that's graduation, if that's finding employment, if that's, you know, becoming a good, you know, a parent who contributes to society or contributes to the nation or whatever it is, then that's what we need to do, right? And we have to tailor the education program and the system to those individual kids.
Mm-hmm.
We have to look at the barriers that they have and support them through that. So I appreciate the time, Nathan. I've enjoyed my time here, but I'll pass it on to Simon.
Well, I think Simon has to go. We had the closing arguments. I want to end this with I thank all three of you. Or Simon, you got one more thing to say? Are you good?
Sure. Couple of things. Our staff members right now, all they've been doing is just connecting. It's think about it like a hockey team, right? If you have a good strategy or sports team with like the Winnipeg Jets, for an example, sometimes I use them as an analogy. I'm a fan of the Winnipeg Jets because they're grinders. They got strong defense, and they lately had some really good offense, right? Some goal scorers. You're going to have whatever you design your education system, everybody's going to have to work as a team, and you have to get to know the game. And the players on the other side are the students. And the game is, what issues do they have to deal with in order to play an effective game that your teachers have to connect with? If you as an educator, or don't understand technology, don't take the time to really effectively learn about the digital tools that are out there, and your kids are, then you're really not playing the game with what the kids are doing. And on the other side, if the kids don't have internet, they don't understand this technology, and that's all you speak, you're again pushing yourself out of that game, and you're not playing the same game. So there's going to be each one of our First Nations or schools or communities have to get to know the students that they have to engage with, and they have to talk the same language and be able to effectively deliver the ultimate goal of either going to university. That should be a goal for a lot of kids, not everybody, but labor force. I think kids are going to quickly understand how many people are going to look for jobs out there, and we can't just simply have them accept that I'll take whatever the government has to provide us, because we as First Nations people, we're very, very proud people. And sometimes our kids, what they see right in front of them is they forget about that rich, resilient history that we all have. And so that's, I think, the game that we have to play with our students that are in front of us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, I think that's it for the show. I would love it if in the near future, if we could all get back together again like this, just kind of see what's going on with the changes, where everyone's adapted, and what's looking on in the future. Maybe around June. Everyone out there, I wish you guys well. I hope everyone's doing well in this crazy world we're living in. And thank you again, Pat, and thank you again, Simon, and thank you again, Cecilia. And we will see you guys at the next podcast. Hey, who say?